Good. So welcome to our talk, Eclipse IDE and RCP, Unveiling the Past, Present, and the Future. And before we start, I would like to invite all of you to take a few seconds of thinking about your relationship to the Eclipse IDE. Whether you are a user, an adapter, or even a contributor. Because, especially to the contributors, I would say thank you. Thanks a lot for contributing to this awesome technology, because you made our tools possible. So really, thank you. And I would like to use our tools where we stand for from our companies to showcase that Eclipse IDE, and especially the RCP, is still a highly adopted framework and heavily used in the industries, and also use it to introduce ourselves. So, the first tool I would like to introduce is actually an IDE. It's the E2 Studio from Renesas. It's used to create and run code that can be executed on Renesas microcontrollers. And from Renesas, we do have Mark Goodchild here. Mark is the chair of our steering committee. He's also active in the cloud dev tools. And at Renesas, he is responsible for the worldwide success of the tools. And today, he will speak about our current status and what we have achieved in our working group. The second tool was presented as a keynote from Sonia earlier this day already. It's the ABAP development tools, also an IDE. So we use a short word. It's used to create and build business applications that can run in SAP environments. From SAP, we have Sebastian Ratz. Sebastian is a platform committer. He's a member of our steering committee. He is also a member of the planning council. And SAP, he is a product owner and a development expert of one of the development teams there. And finally, another tool of another domain. This tool is called Prevision. The EE stands for Electronic Architecture. It's designed to model the complete car in the automotive industries. And for those who are using all these new technologies and words, we say it's where software-defined vehicle actually starts, that you have to understand your system. And from Vector, we have Heiko. Heiko is also a platform committer, and he is Vector representative at the Planning Council. And we have myself. My name is Johannes Matheis. I'm a member of the steering committees of the working group, member of the subcommittee Community Management. As well, I serve as elected contributing representative at the board of directors at the Eclipse Foundation. So if you have any questions concerning this job, please do not hesitate to contact me. And at Vector, I'm responsible as a product area manager for the platform and base development for the tool of Prevision. And I will stay some time going in the past, where the Eclipse IDE and RCP is coming from. We had it heard sometimes prior this day already, so it's just a short recap. So the Eclipse IDE is in the code was donated to the open source from IBM in 2001, and in 2004, coming from Visual Studio 8, and then going 2004, transforming from this extensible IDE in a version 2x to version 3x, where it's actually an extensible framework. And the Eclipse Foundation was created in 2004 for the overall governance processes to run this concept in the open source. Then there was a major update coming in 2010 to 2013, when the application platform was introduced with the Eclipse 4x framework. And we are actually a pretty young working group, introduced in 2021, and that is following all these principles are introduced by the Eclipse Foundation for working groups for sustainable and governance and providing funding and resources for all the projects under our umbrella, especially for the Eclipse IDE, and that's what we conquer in our working group. And nowadays, okay, we have 2023. So what were the drivers for this adoption? Of course, it's vendor neutral, really vendor neutral. You see a lot of companies active in the projects. It's open source and open to contribute. And that means a lot to us as a community. It means we can drive it on the one side, on the other side. We have to drive it, so it's on us to do this. And it's proven and stabilized, has long, long history running. We all reside on this, 20 years of track record and even going forward. And it's extensible, as we saw, as with the 3 tools I brought to you. And now I would hand over to Mark, going to the current state of our work.
Okay, so we're going to go through about the current state of where we are, why we have the Eclipse IDE working group, how it came about. So it's still, the Eclipse IDE is very much a strong, mature IDE, but it is lacking in some areas. You know, I think it's well known, but last year Carsten did a presentation which pointed it out, and it really resonated with us, and we use that as fuel, I think we should say, for the Eclipse IDE working group to move it forwards. But we are lacking some things. There are a lot of strengths. It's a strong IDE, but there are lacking points. So the attractiveness, responsiveness, ease of use. And this slide sort of points it out, again, lifted directly from Carsten's presentation from last year. Not that much has really happened in the last 10 years. As we can see, from 2013 to 2022, it looks pretty similar. And this is one of the things we're aiming to change. So there are lots of trends in IDE development and lots of challenges. And these challenges are some of the things which we need to address moving forward. Some are more easy than others to deal with. In particular, the ones I'd like to just point out, improved browser integration and simplification of dev workflows, improved UX and UI is crucially important to us moving forwards. But there are lots of things here. Some, like I say, some easier to deal with than others. So what have we done since last year? Well, the IDE working group has made quite a lot of improvements in the last year. We've managed to secure a lot more investment, which is being used to using the Eclipse Foundation's Development Initiatives program to actually fund improvements in this area. Some of the companies involved, you can see the companies involved in the working group at the bottom there, are also investing in developers to really improve things. And the second half of this presentation talks specifically about some of the things which are going on. In addition to that, for 2024, we have a new charter which has a new platinum membership level, which is going to generate a lot more funds, which should exponentially increase the improvements which we're seeing in our community. Another strong part of the Eclipse IDE working group is the fostering a community within the working group. Numerous times in 2023, we've met face-to-face. We had a great hackathon at SAP. In July. So thanks to the people at SAP for that. That was really, really well appreciated. So all in all, this progress, the future seems pretty bright from where I'm standing, and it's moving in the right direction. Heiko.
Okay, so after having taken a look into the past and especially into the last year's development, let's move more into the present part and into the future and where the current issues are, where the current most important topics are and how we address them currently. First of all, I want to emphasize some of the challenges we are facing always in development. So most of that is based on the fact that the IDE and the platform itself, of course, are based on a platform, as the name says, which means that it's most important to have a stable platform. Yeah, so to have stability in the APIs for the large base of adopters, For example, we have not had a major version increment for around 10 years now, and this is pretty important if you have a platform with many tools based on it, that it doesn't always change, but that you can rely on its APIs and on its implementation. But on the other hand, if you develop a product, for example, the Eclipse IDE, then you need some adaptivity. You want to adapt to trends, to new technologies. You want to adapt, for example, web technologies and AI in terms of the IDE, so you need to make some adaptations which somehow conflicts with this stability aspect. You need to make changes, or in terms of a platform, usually make extensions. And this is always a thing where you have to think about how you make these extensions. Maybe you have seen some interfaces in the platform where you have version 1, 2, 3, and so on. And this is always a trade-off to think about how you can make this kind of extensions when developing further the platform. Another kind of challenges are given by the architecture of Eclipse. One of these issues is the synchronous execution. So basically everything is executed in the UI thread, and you have to take care of spawning asynchronous tasks for expensive operations. If you do not do so, you will see it because your UI blocks and the tool is not responsive. We see this at some points in time, especially in the Eclipse IDE, and this is something that you always have to consider when developing your extensions. Another thing is the paradigm on which SWT is based. Of course, it's great that SWT has implementations, native implementations for all 3 major operating systems, but it always means that you have to validate your changes and implement your changes for all 3 platforms, which is quite some effort. And of course, it's great that you have that, but you always have to consider that, and that makes it harder to make progress on SWT and the look and feel of all the applications that you may feel are a bit outdated. So Mark has already shown this overview of the current trends in IDE developments, and we see one of the most important topics to be this the simplification of dev workflows, or if you consider the platform, then just take off the dev and just talk about workflows. So the user experience of the tool overall, the responsiveness and its ease of use, because that's basically the essence of an IDE. Yeah? We have heard that in the keynote of Johannes as well. What the impact is of user experience of such an IDE. So this is what we think is most crucial to address first, because there we have some issues in the Eclipse platform and the Eclipse IDE that need to be addressed before keeping up with current trends, but just to basically make the homework for an IDE. And this is why we focus on, for example, modernizing the user experience overall. Of course, we have to make small steps, but we want to address this topic in terms of modernizing the overall look and feel, supporting, for example, high DPI, such a new thing in a better way than it is done right now, and especially the part of performance, because that's what I said before, that you have these freezes and so on, and I think performance is one of the most important issues and one of the things to address first. We will also dive a little into the setup part, so how easy it is to set up a workspace if you want to develop a project, and more current trends like AI technologies and support for emerging technologies in terms of technology providers. So as some of the examples that we are working on right now to address these issues, I brought some things we are working on right now. One is the modernization in terms of user experience for the find and replace functionality. It's only a small building step, don't get me wrong, but it's one aspect to improve the user experience overall. If you take a look at the right here, then you see how it is currently implemented. If you want to find something within an editor, then this kind of dialog opens. So it's placed in front of the editor in which you actually want to search. It's hiding important information within your editor. You have a bunch of options for configuring your search, for executing the search. You are overwhelmed with all this information. From a user experience perspective, this is not really good. Yeah? You have to move around this dialog, and it's always in the way, and you're overwhelmed with information. And what we propose is something that you might know in a similar way from other tools, other current tools, to have, for example, such an overlay-based implementation, or we have some other alternatives evaluating right now an inline representation of this fine functionality. So you can think of different things, but the essence is that it should be integrated into the editor in which you actually want to make a search, and that it should be reduced to the minimum set of functionality that you want to have. In this screenshot, you already see an expanded version with this replace bar as well. If you just open it, you will only have this find bar and be able to do a search. So if you just want to search for a string within your editor, you will only have this one bar in which you can enter your search rather than having such an overloading dialog. The state of this This contribution is that we already have a pull request for that in progress, so you can check it out, so you can have a look at it. It's really working, how you can see it here. It is not ready for merge yet, but we are developing it, and we hope that we can integrate it into one of the next Eclipse releases. Another thing which is not that far in development, but we are already working on it, so this is already a current screenshot, is the high DPI support, in particular on Windows systems. For the multi-monitor case. So for the scenario that you have different monitors with different DPI scaling, consider you have one monitor with 100% scaling, another with 150% scaling, then if you nowadays move around your workbench window, you will get such a, I hope you can see it on the beamer, then you will get such a blurry result, or depending on your JVM settings, it may not scale at all, but what you definitely not get on the second screen is a sharp result, so having sharp UI. That's what we are working on. You can see a current screenshot on the right side. We have implemented much of the functionality in SWT to make the scaling. This is a screenshot from our Prevision tool, so we have already integrated that functionality into an actual tool, and it works there. Of course, if you take a look at the screenshot, you will also see things that are not working, as it's a work in progress. But you can see that many things are already working, and we are definitely working on that to provide it also in one of the next Eclipse releases. And a third thing I want to show you is concerns one of the most important aspects, as I mentioned before, it is the performance aspect, so having especially long freezes in your UI. We face this quite often in the development of Prevision, which is a tool based on around 2,000 plugins, where we have several places where the responsiveness of especially the Java tooling is not that good. The example here shows that you, in a specific class hierarchy, try to open the quick outline view, and what you can see running up here are minutes, not seconds. Yeah, so you pressed Control O to open the quick outline view within your Java editor, and it takes 45 minutes for this view to open. This is really bad. In particular, it is bad because you cannot cancel this progress. Yeah? You have to wait until it is open, or you have to kill your IDE. So this is a real productivity problem for us, because if you kill your IDE, then you have to restart it, build your workspace again, and so on, and it's a real problem, and we have this at several places. And what we see in the Prevision development is a severe version of all these problems. Yeah? If you have smaller projects, you may face this in terms of 1 or 2 seconds delay, but we have severe issues with that, so we can contribute these issues and better work on them because we can easily reproduce them. This is something that we have analyzed, so we know what the problem is here, but we have not addressed that yet, but that's something we start working on right now, and this will affect everyone using the Eclipse IDE then.
So I want to show you 2 more things that we have been working on recently. So first of all, we have the improved onboarding experience. So as you are aware, this was available for quite some time. You have some information about how to get started when you have opened the IDE for the first time. And also, if you open a view and you don't know what this view is for, you can get some information here on how to get a search started, for example. And what we did with 2023-06 release is actually this editor onboarding area to have some useful shortcuts on how to get you started. So this is perspective dependent, and you can implement your own image here if you like. Another thing is, like we already mentioned, is the lightweight UI, which is like a big pain point in my opinion. And so let's look at a typical IDE that you have opened, you're working on something, and over time, let's focus on this area, all these views accumulate. And as you can see, the titles are all cut off. You only have the icons left and a few letters of the title of the view. And this gets cluttered, and then you close them, and a few hours later, you're at the same state again. So what we are now proposed to do, and I opened a pull request for that, is to have 2 new options, to make the titles always visible in full, and also to hide the icons if you don't like them. And let me just show you the biggest difference. If I enable this setting, then you can see we have now a much cleaner UI. All the icons are gone. And what we are called this internally, and I think it's quite a nice analogy. So you have the editor area, which is your main actor in your Hollywood movie, and you give them the real focus here. and all the view areas are really just the supporting actors. You don't get distracted visually from all that clutter in the rest of the IDE. Okay, so next topic that we had on our list is AI. So what's there to say? We don't want to go into detail about what you can do with AI, but can you do it and how should you do it? So let's look at the technical architecture. So RCP is a powerful and extensible platform. So we have basically all the extension points in there to do whatever we want. And therefore, AI is merely an implementation detail of what we are trying to do. So it should always be possible to do it. And if we see in the ecosystem what's out there already, then we notice there are some AI extensions already. For example, here in the marketplace, you can see a bunch of them. But what we do see is that not all the vendors of the big ones are there. So we don't, for example, have an Eclipse integration of Copilot yet. But people are asking for them. So there's an issue, you can go vote for that. The question now is, what we are thinking about, are we missing something? So is it really just the problem that no one builds these solutions, or is there something missing on a technical level that enables people to build this kind of things? So if you have some thoughts about that, also join our booth later. Maybe that can be a topic of discussion. Okay, and one more point. So you are now a company that provides some extension. You build something on Eclipse, on the RCP, or maybe target a programming language. What's your vision and your strategy? What can you do? So first of all, there's of course a solution. Yeah, you stick to Eclipse, you commit, you build a desktop application, and you target exactly one machine, one environment. On the other hand, you might want to give users a choice to say, okay, sure, you can use the desktop IDE based on Eclipse, but maybe your extension should also run in other IDEs or even in the web. So what do you do from a technical architecture point of view? Well, here it's clear. You have the RCP platform and you just stick with it. And on the other side, you basically also can do that and reuse your your RCP layer. And then you put LSP, the language server protocol, on top. And you can then have individual extensions for the target ecosystems that you want to reach. And in that case, you can then maximize your reuse and build core functionality only once and make every line of code count as much as possible. So, for example, what can we do here? Yeah, I think Prevision is a good example. It should run out of desktop. It's highly CPU and memory intense, so this is really the go-to way here. And on the other hand, yeah, of course, if you do invent a new programming language, you want that to be able to run anywhere. And of course, AI functionality, like the Copilot integration or AI in general, you typically build this infrastructure once, but you want it available in any ecosystem. And yeah, good example, of course, also from last year's talk by Carsten. If you now use VS Code Java editing, what you actually have is an JDT below in the engine room. Okay, so to sum up, if we need to assess the Eclipse RCP and IDE ecosystem, we can say that the RCP offering is really powerful. It's unique, it can handle these huge workloads, and its architecture is tried and tested over 20 years, and the adoption is still huge. But, yeah, of course, handle large workloads, and this is really a distinction between RCP and others, because I don't know if we can handle 2,000 plugin development in one IDE with other platforms. And if we say about something about the desktop IDE and the RCP, we can definitely say that this is the vendor-neutral platform and IDE. I like to compare this to the Firefox of the desktop IDEs. And sure, LSP is like really showing the way on how we can target more ecosystems. And with that, we come to the conclusion. So we see that there are multiple things we need to address in the coming time. We have seen some improvements for the user experience and some thoughts about how we can handle AI in a better way. And yeah, but this is surely not the end. So we all invite you to come join us, get us feedback, come into discussions with us, and of course, contribute if possible. Yeah, we have a BFF session later this evening, also here. No, next door, I think. And yeah, that's on 7 p.m. And with that, I think we can take some questions.
I'm just going to look up the slide number too. Okay. So this is for Heiko, slide 11. You were showing a really cool search bar. And I could tell that all the UI elements were there. My question on that is, would it be a drop-in, like, would plugins that use the search widget have to modify their code, or is it just going to wonderfully work under their feet because it would just update the layout and everything? Would this be a free value added for all the plugin developers?
Yeah, that should be the case. So basically, this is currently implemented for text editors in general. So every text editor that extends the generic one that is provided by the platform will profit from that. We also think about working on an integration that you can integrate into every kind of view, so that it's not tied to editors, but that you can use a generic search implementation, search UI for any kind of view. Think of the Package Explorer, Project Explorer. You may also want to do a search there. Of course, you have to define how you search in there, but you can use the same UI to provide all the interaction with the user. So that is basically the goal we want to achieve, but this is nothing we yet work on, but that's the final idea that we want to implement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, maybe one question that I was wondering. So you were mentioning the LSP style integration of backend logic, which I think is a very popular and also very promising approach. However, of course, it ends at the front end after the front end UI. One way that people then go beyond sharing code between maybe web and RCP is then integrating Chromium embedded views. Is that also something that you're looking at or seeing as part of your plan?
Definitely, yeah. So this is one of the major topics we are currently having our program plan for the working group, how to address this topic. Yeah. It's crucial to have some kind of HTML rendering or much more powerful framework on top, which goes beyond the current way of integrating IE engine in the Eclipse IDE. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it feels like that SWT has been a pain point for a while and also is still. Is there any work going on replacing that or any ideas on
I don't know really what to respond to that. So we currently have no idea to replace that. Of course, it would be. It's not a current technology anymore. So it's still great to have this native implementation, but it's not easy to replace as well, right? So migrating your applications is not that easy. So if you say you throw away SWT and replace it with another UI framework, then you have to basically re-implement all your UI for all your applications. That is not an option. And one solution would be to have a different implementation of SWT that is generic, not dependent on a specific system, on the native implementation, but to have, don't know, an SWT layer implementation for web technologies, mapping to HTML or whatever, like you know from the RAP implementation, for example. But at least we do not currently see an easy solution for that, so that we actually want to start working on that.
Perhaps one addition to that. So we currently do have resources in place working on all three layers, Mac OS, Win, and Linux, working slowly but steadily on SWT improvements. So we're still working on it. And it's part of our strategy to discuss it and bring it in and trying to have some kind of... Yeah. Yeah, as said, we try to string with this thing we can bring fast in with UI, UX improvements, and then going deeper and further. We know that there are a lot of drawbacks, and I mean, when we saw Carsten's talk last year, I mean, we have done all this in 1 year. So, thank you. So it's just this point, and we will continue. That's a message, and of course, yeah, no replacement project in plan currently. Yes.
Yeah.
A quick difficulty with SWT and Eclipse plugins in general is that it's very open, and that's a huge quality. But at the same time, as a nice developer, I'm going to open my UI thread, make a plugin, open the UI thread, and then access the hard drive, send it on the internet on a 14.4 modem, freeze the UI. And what can you do as an Eclipse platform to stop me from doing that and from people installing Eclipse with my plugin and then saying that the Eclipse platform is bad, not my plugin?
How do you stop someone from swearing in a language?
The question is, are you promoting your tool? Yes, you putting a logging framework and seeing what the application response might be in a solution.
I see that as a potential. I see logging as a potential solution, but I don't like. I think that's my vision because I like logging, so all the problems look like a nail that logging can hammer in. I'm sure that there are other solutions, and I want to know those.
Okay.
Like maybe reflection, inspection,
Okay.
analysis.
I think there is a testimony for SWT you can enable, and then you get log messages where it is unsigned.
That exists.
But I think that's a really interesting point. So we have also discussed that, what we can do there. Basically, it's so deep in the architecture that you have to really thoroughly think about that, how you can replace that, whether you want to enforce your extensions to really execute asynchronously. But so we have that on our minds. But yeah, we'll see whether we can do something there. And I think we have time for one last question, and then.
Okay, just quick question. Maybe my use case is not quite standard, but I usually have several desktop IDs running. Is it possible to share a language server between them now, or is it something to do?
I don't know. Maybe we can also have some expert in here who knows more about language server.
I think the overall architecture with language servers is that language servers are built for one client. So the overall specification is really designed for you have one client, which is kind of the desktop IDE or whatever, talking to one language server. It is in the specification not really, the idea is not really to have one language server implementation that serves multiple clients at the same time, I think. That makes it difficult to use that out of. I'm sure you can do something like that with proxying and building layers on top of that or something like that. So it should be technically possible, but it's not, I think it's not designed into the LSP protocol itself, which makes it a little challenging.
Okay, I would say thank you. Please come and join us at our 7 p.m. at the BOF session. And I have one slide left. This is a personal slide. Don't please go out because we need your help. And that's a really serious topic. And it's a personal topic, but we are allowed to bring this slide. So this is really real life thing. One of our colleagues at Vector got the diagnosis leukemia this summer. And I mean, he's 33 years old, mid of his life. And well, he is in good hands at Berlin at Charité, and we have looked all his databases, and what we found out that there is no perfect donator for him currently. So we need new donators. So if you do not know how this works, please register at your local agency for donating, what's the name, stem cells. That really helps. We really appreciate it. If you are motivated, please go and help Alex. Would help us really, really. Thank you.
Just a short information on that, because people usually think, oh, if I do that, then I need to have a surgery in my back. No, in 80%, it's just, if you're the donor, in 80% of the cases, they will just take your blood like you usually do when you're giving blood. So think about it.
Thank you. See you tonight. Enjoy it.